Alright, my name's Bill, and this is probably going to be the most interesting video you've ever seen in your entire life. And it's me explaining what I've done in the Software Dev C# Challenge. And as you'll see, a lot of C#. This is the final product, which is ported from my... This is ported from my VS Code folder, where I've got an index, I've got scripts, and a styles, and just sort of pretty much just copy and pasted most of the stuff overwards. So I'm going to go through the VS Code version first. So it's got the head, it's got the body, I've got a div for everything that is pretty much in the document, and then just a few breaks to make it look nice. These are input fields for name, email, and card. And then a final div with the input button. And this is a form with the post method, but I was going to have it the way I did the mail was using an action called mail to, which is used in the JavaScript as well, but before I changed it, the submit was using all of that. And then at the bottom it's got the JavaScript loading in. I did have it in here before in the head, but I put it down here just because it seemed safer, because that way basically once everything's loaded in, then it loads the JavaScript instead of having to worry about it being before. I mean, I'm pretty sure it does still work. I haven't tested it, but that's my reasoning for that. And then this is the CSS. It's just changing the font, giving everything some padding. It didn't specify a proper background color, so I just used the complementary color that I found online. And then everything else is to make it all sort of fit in the middle according to this. This is the VS Code version. This is what it looks like big, what it looks like small, and this is what it looks like mobile. And then we go on to the JavaScript. Now, the goddamn JavaScript. I hate a bit of backstory. I did this once before a long, long time ago. When I say a long time ago, like a month ago, because I got another JavaScript HTML front end thing, but I didn't get it. What we've got here is, this is a checksum. All of these fields produce a 1 or a 0, and if all of them produce a 1, then this checksum will equal 3, and then that's how it knows if it's valid information when you press submit. As you can see there, it's not valid. Facts, logic. These are all the fields, the DOM elements. Last time I did this, I pretty much did the same thing. I named them all at the top. But I decided here to put it in a field object because the idea was that I was going to make a bunch of classes for each thing. One class for a field element, and then one class for the submit button. And then the email, card, and name was going to... They were going to inherit from like that base class and then use their own other class stuff. But JavaScript seems to just be really... My issue was the way the scope was working. So I wanted to do recursive methods. So everything's in one method, all the checks are in one method, and then once it goes through that one method, it checks is 1, 2, 3 okay? Has it got any evil symbols in it, like this? Got this symbol in it. Bad. And I wanted one method to check for first the 1, 2, 3s, like the ASCII, and then on this email one, you can see that it says no, despite the fact that this is valid information that you're putting in. But the reason it's not valid is because there's no @ symbol. There's no full stop. So as you see there, I went green. Same with the card number. This has an ASCII check, but this is all fine. But the issue is that it's not LUN valid. So I need to go and... Whoa! And then this submits to this email that's hard-coded in down here. You just need to change it so it sends it to the email in the brief. All right, let me go through my function. So this is the LUN one. Basically, it takes the input, which is the value of the document ID thing, and it has a total. So the way the LUN algorithm is, it's not that complicated, but it's complicated to explain, I think. But basically, if it's not 16 digits, then obviously it's not valid because it needs to be a card number. But if it is 16 digit, loop through all the characters in input, and if it's the second number, then it will double it. And then if that number is above 10, then it will minus 9, and then it will add that to the total, and then it will log that so I can see what it's doing. Then it will set double to false. So basically, it's going like it's doubling each other number, starting with a double number, and then going to a not double, and then to a double, and then to a not double, until it's all the way done. And when that's done, it modulos it by 10. I mean, if it's got a remainder, then it's false. And if it's got no remainder, then it is non-valid, and it's usable. So that's how it knows if it's true or false, and it just returns that. And then making it valid for the email is just checking if it's got an @ symbol and a full stop. As long as it's got that, then it's allowed. The ASCII check has a bunch of key codes that I wrote down that are invalid on here. So it says only these are valid, and also standard upper and lowercase. So that's pretty much, these are just all the ASCII symbols that aren't included in that list that I just listed. And it just takes the input as a variable. I like doing that just because it means I don't have to worry about like if this is wrong or anything. I just have to work with this instead of working with this, which even though it's the same thing and it adds an extra step, it's easy on me. And then this is the validity. It's always true unless it finds something and it just sets it false. So if the value is anything, then it will start a for loop, checking if the value of I is in between 32 and 126. And as long as it's in that range, then it's a valid number, key code, anything. Once it knows that it's within the accepted range, then it's going to do a for each on those individual elements and check to see if the key code matches any of these, because these are bad key codes. For example, that is a bad key code. So we're checking for stuff like that. And basically, if it finds anything in any of these, then valid will evaluate to false. And if that happens, then that's kind of cringe and can't send off any data because it's not valid. And only if it's not finding anything will valid be true, and then it returns valid at the end. Originally I had it just return true or return false. The scope issue, the way that it's got like block scope, I couldn't quite figure out like what was correct scope and what wasn't correct scope. So this works, is why I've done it. This is putting the event listeners on every single element, so basically, as long if the ASCII check is true, it checks that first. Then this is just for the name, so it only needs to check that. Then it will check that's good, and if it's good, it will change the background color to green, and if it's not good, pink. I was going to make it the same green as this green, but it looks bad, so I didn't do that. And it's not a real thing anyway. If it was real, then I would change it. So the idea is that they all make this equal 3 every time this is... When this is called, it sets it to 0, so you don't have to worry about it like weird number beforehand. And then it will add 1 to it if all of them are true. The issue with this is that really this shouldn't be a public variable, but again, block scope is weird. This has a checksum, as I mentioned earlier, and it always gets set to 0 every time the function is called, and it's got a switch case for each thing. So if all of them check for the ASCII if the key codes are good, and the only difference is that the email checks for an @ and a full stop, and the card checks for if it's LUN viable. If it's LUN viable, then it sets background to green, and it adds 1 to the checksum. They all add 1 to the checksum if they're valid, and if they're not valid, then they -1. And it gets set to 0 every single time. So it will either... the highest it can possibly be is 3, and the lowest it can possibly be is -3. And if it is 3, then the submit function will submit to whatever you're using. I have like Microsoft email on my computer, but it just uses whatever default computer thing you have. This is something I just found online, so I don't really know what it's doing. I mean, this is HTML code, altogether, but I have no idea why window.location. As I'm sure you can tell, I was in a rush to make this. Okay, so this is my MVC project. It's got it's just the V and the C. There's not really any M. I've got this, but it's not hooked up to anything, and this is just for showing you if you have an error, and it comes with the standard MVC project setup. So what I've done is I've ported my CSS into the CSS www root. This has a default site JavaScript script made, but I just put it in the one I made before. So if you watch the first half of this video, you'll have seen this before. Obviously, it's got all that crap. It's got the Bootstrap and the jQuery, which is like I've used Bootstrap once. This is the default home controller. This is the default controller, I should say. So I made my own one, following tutorials on the Microsoft website, pretty much. And the only difference between these two really is that this one has a different name, and it has a welcome page. So this is the views. There's the default. This is the default one. It just shows this, and then it's got a privacy statement. So I pretty much just copied the layout for that, and put my HTML code from VS Code, copy and pasted the body stuff into this bit, and that way when it loads the JavaScript, it will just work functionally exactly the same. So like these fields will get the same documents and everything, so I don't have to worry about renaming and redoing anything. It's just literally copy pasted, ported over. This is it in action. So yeah, as you can see, it works exactly the same. There you go. Submit. Not submitting. Submitting that, bro. There you go. Classic. Last time I pretty much had an old version of this brief a while ago. So I was thinking like, oh yeah, I could just use that old website, but I thought that was a bad idea, because then I couldn't show the process. So I was like, okay, let's do the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript again. I was kind of focusing on this bit because these two are for babies, man. This is the real stuff. But obviously this is stupid and I hate this. So I spent a long time just like redoing what I did last time. So by the time it got to me doing the MVC portion of it, model, the view, and the controller, my thing is pretty much just just view and controller. My view, pretty much just this stuff. And then my controller is just the JavaScript pretty much, even though that probably makes no sense. But my plan was for all of this was I wanted to make it look really cool, obviously. And this is only in retrospect now that I've thought back on it. The model stuff would store all the user information. This would be page one here. And that would record the user input. And then if it's valid using JavaScript, then I would be replacing the JavaScript with C# code that would take the user input and make sure it's valid. So that stuff would all be in like a model, I believe. All right, let's just focus on the right side. So basically, this stuff is what I wanted. I wanted 2 pages. One page to take the user input that I have technically made in VS Code with normal HTML JavaScript stuff. And then the second page would like store that data in like a big list in these big blocks. There's the data, and then you would have like an email button here that you could use to send you an email. This would just be one class, and this is what I think would be the controller. So this page would store the model information from page 1. And then this model information can be emailed controller portion of this second page. That way you can just email it You'll have a big list of it, and it will be nice. You have a Trello with all the stuff. So this was for the front end. This was for the C# for the front end in JavaScript. This is the crunch, and this is the just making sure I remember to upload it everywhere and make sure I have GitHub commits all the time so that you can see the progress. See, that I actually did make it. See all of these 16 commits. That's crazy, man. Do all these here. That's pretty cool. Oh, and also this is my Excel spreadsheet for the test cases. I tried to go as overboard as humanly possible. This isn't finished yet, but by the time I finish this video, this should be finished and uploaded somewhere. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed, and I hope that, you thought it was cool. If it was really, really bad, somebody please let me know what you think. Why was it bad? Because, to be honest, I'm Tadash, and I would like to get better. Love you, bye, love you, love you, love you.